When first sworn in as president, George Washington was addressed as His High Mightiness. But as her son became this country's first elected leader, the mother of the father of our country didn't live in a high and mighty colonial brick palace. Except for the 19th century renditions of her likeness, we don't know the actual image of Mary Ball Washington, who lived in this lovely, utilitarian frame house. It stood on what was then, and still is, a quiet residential street in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Born in 1708, downriver from Fredericksburg in Virginia's northern neck, she was the daughter of the well-respected Joseph Ball. By 1720, she was a young orphan, and a wealthy one, much sought after as a wife. In 1731, she married Augustine Washington, a widower and a rising member of the Virginia gentry. George was the firstborn of that union. 6 years later, they settled on a farm across the river from Fredericksburg, and she remained there after her husband's death in 1743. By 1770, her oldest son George was concerned for her well-being because she was somewhat isolated, living alone on that farm. Once Mary agreed, in 1772 George moved his mother into Fredericksburg. He had purchased 2 lots on the corner of Lewis and Charles Streets. The location there allowed Mary to be near her daughter Betty. As the 3 separate roof lines demonstrate, the existing 18th century and later 19th century buildings were altered to create a single, extended house. The last time George Washington saw his mother was the spring of 1789. He was heading off to become President of the United States. He traveled to Fredericksburg and received his mother's blessing. Mary died of breast cancer just a few months later. The house became a mandatory stop, a shrine for touring dignitaries, including several former presidents who visited in Fredericksburg. Hand-to-hand street fighting swarmed around it during the Civil War's Battle of Fredericksburg. But soldiers from both sides respected the site for what it represented, and thus the house survived. In 1890, the house was almost disassembled and moved away, but it was saved by local women and the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities, which opened it for tours. Today, through the many changes over the years, the home is locally owned and preserved through the efforts of the Washington Heritage Museums, whose members, seeking to save America's historic sites, come from across the United States and around the world. A perfect memento from their gift shop not only preserves the memory of your visit, but helps maintain this national treasure. You will be immersed in the rooms where Mary Washington lived the last 17 years of her life. See some of her household items. Enjoy her lovingly recreated garden, and walk in the father of our country's footsteps. The house is open for tours most days of the year, with the daily schedule changing on a seasonal basis, as noted in the placard by the door. Please come in and visit, won't you? You can also check us out on Facebook and our website.